Villains can make or break a story. Sometimes they're brutal forces of nature. Sometimes they're twisted philosophers. And sometimes they're the kind of people who leave the hero questioning everything they believe. And in a series like Kagurabachi, where conflict and legacy sit at the center of the narrative, the antagonists don't just matter, they define the entire journey. Today, I want to dive into what makes some of Kagurabachi's villains so compelling, and especially why one character in particular has completely elevated the series for me. For anyone new here, Kagurabachi follows Chihiro, a young swordsmith seeking revenge against the sorcerers who murdered his father. It's a simple hook, but the series quickly expands, introducing the lore behind the enchanted blades, the politics surrounding them, and the larger conflict that makes Chihiro's revenge just one piece of a much bigger story. I like Chihiro quite a bit. His quiet, hyper-focused, almost surgical approach to conflict makes him stand out in a sea of hot-blooded shonen protagonists, and his supporting cast has been solid so far. But honestly, the characters I find myself thinking about most of these days are the villains. Especially one villain in particular, Samura, the blind swordsman. Samura is one of the legendary wielders of the 7 enchanted blades. He fought alongside Chihiro's father, and even served as a mentor for Chihiro when he was younger. And when it comes to what makes a great antagonist, he checks every box. One of the most important qualities of a strong antagonist is their ability to move the story. Without an active force pushing the plot forward, your narrative just kind of sits there. Samura tackles that issue immediately. The moment he steps into the arc, everything accelerates. He sides with Yura, seemingly killing Urui in cold blood, hands one of the legendary blades to the enemy, and absolutely bodies Chihiro, then calmly warns him to stay out of the conflict. And it's here that we learn something crucial. Samura's alliance with Yura isn't stable. It's a temporary arrangement built on necessity rather than trust. This creates a tense three-way deadlock, where every faction is dancing around Samura's presence, terrified of tipping him off before they're ready. For most of the arc, Samura isn't just a character, he's a shadow hanging over the story. Even when Chihiro is fighting Hirohiko, Samura is always looming in the back of his mind. And when Samura finally enters the battlefield, the entire tone shifts instantly. But what truly sets Samura apart isn't just his strength. To explain what I mean, let's rewind a bit to the series' first major antagonist, Sojo. Sojo was an immediate standout for me. He made his presence known by brutally killing Daruma and destroying Chihiro's home base. A perfect gut punch introduction. He also raised a thematic question that Chihiro still has to grapple with. Were the enchanted blades truly tools of protection or instruments of slaughter? Sojo himself is a fascinating contradiction. Smart, yet delusional. Self-aware, yet twisted enough to justify anything. His wild, extroverted, sadistic personality, clashing with Chihiro's calm stoicism, made for a great dynamic. And of course, his design and abilities were cool too. But ultimately, Sojo was self-interested. He was compelling, yes, but the excitement came from watching Chihiro adapt, grow, and overcome him, not from Sojo's ideology or emotional depth. The other key antagonists so far, Gayura, Hirohiko, and others, fall into that same lane. They're driven by self-serving motives, and the fun is seeing how Chihiro navigates their tricks, minions, and powers. And there's nothing wrong with that. Purely selfish villains can be entertaining, but many of the most memorable antagonists in fiction have layers, vulnerabilities, a warped sense of honor, a painful backstory, or just a moral code that, while twisted, still feels human. And that's where Samura enters the picture. Kagurabachi manages to balance Samura's cheerful, almost warm demeanor with deep-seated guilt and a surprisingly strong moral compass. Within the narrative, he acts as both an antagonist and a mentor figure, a source of fear and wisdom at the same time. Through him, characters grow, reflect, and change. He's a completely different kind of threat than anyone else in the story. Not just because he's overwhelmingly strong, clearly far beyond Chihiro so far, but because he's someone Chihiro cares about. Someone his father respected. Someone he doesn't want to fight. Their conflict isn't just a battle of blades. It's a clash of ideologies between generations. A debate about whether Chihiro and his peers should continue fighting a war that began long before they were born. And their battle ends with a surprisingly hopeful conclusion. Something rare in a story this dark. I could go on for hours, but the core idea is simple. Great antagonists elevate the story they're in. And Samura? through his presence, his impact, and his complexity, has taken Kagurabachi from pretty good to one of my favorite manga currently running. So remember, great antagonists don't just challenge the hero, they challenge the story itself. And Samura is the perfect example of how a single character can shift the tone, raise the stakes, and deepen the entire narrative. If Kagurabachi keeps producing villains like this, it might just become one of the strongest modern battle shonen that we have. If you enjoyed the breakdown, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.